Welcome. For this video, we will be discussing gaslighting. What is gaslighting and how do people do it and get away with it? Well, gaslighting is based on a movie called Gaslight, where this man would try to convince this woman that the lights that were turned on were not actually turned on. Gaslighting is a form of emotional and psychological abuse, and it sounds really funny, the word gaslight. Everybody's been throwing around this word like it's no big deal, and oh, you're gaslighting me, and they're gaslighting me. But it's actually not funny. It's scary, it's vindictive, it's very manipulative, and it actually works and makes people feel like they're crazy. Gaslighting, there's different forms. Gaslighting is meant to undermine people's reality and make them question their sense of perception, but it doesn't always happen consciously. Sometimes people do it in ways where it's unconscious or subconscious, but either way it serves the same function. It makes people believe that they didn't see what they saw, they didn't feel what they felt, they didn't experience what they experienced, and they start to feel like they are going mad. It can be unintentional, where someone just says something like, oh no, that didn't happen, because they don't remember. So forgetfulness can come off as gaslighting, but there's a difference between how something comes off, like if it comes off as feeling gaslighting, versus if it's actually meant to make somebody feel like their feelings aren't valid and their reality's not clear. There's intentional gaslighting. So there's sometimes where it just happens by mistake. We say or do things that makes people feel like, they didn't see what they saw. But there's that where people are like, that definitely didn't happen. Like, I know for sure that didn't happen. And they'll say it confidently, and people will believe them. And so they are actually trying to make you feel like you're crazy. And they'll say like, it's not that deep. You're taking it too seriously. Don't over exaggerate this. You're taking this too personally. Things that'll make you feel like you're the wrong one, you're the bad guy. Or you'll be blamed as if you're the bad guy in situations where they were actually victimizing you or someone else. And it's just a whole charade. Gaslighting is pretty much a pretend game. It's a way to put on a show and make people believe that show, even when the show doesn't match actuality. There's subtle gaslighting, like just being like not really clear about one's motives and being like, oh, well, I was just trying to be your friend, when really you're trying to get a business deal, for example. And you didn't mean harm, but you still were trying to get something out of someone, or they were trying to get something out of you. So it's subtle, it's not always super in your face, like they're meaning to do it, but it's still not true. And so gaslighting banks on lies, it banks on deception, it banks on inconsistency in facts, and also like people not being direct about what's going on. And then there's the overt gaslighting, kind of like the intentional gaslighting. It's like they are doing it out in the open and they're not afraid to see it. And it's almost like they want you to see it and it be so in your face and everybody's face and people's face, because then it seems like, well, they're not lying and they're not hiding it, because why would they be doing it so directly and just putting it out there? If it was a lie, wouldn't they be trying to hide it? And so they use that to their advantage. They use that casual nonchalance of covertness, but make it overt. So there's covert or subtle gaslighting, where they do it like in little ways over time. And it can be intentional with both forms, or it can be unintentional. So with subtle gaslighting, they can over time kind of chip away at your self-trust by doing it in subtle ways where you start to feel like you've been misrepresenting the facts or you've been remembering incorrectly. But overt is when they pretty much tell you, like, no, you're wrong, like right to your face, and you're like, but I know I'm right. And then people will believe them because they're so confident, they're so grandiose, they're so charismatic. Then there's the emotional and psychological forms of gaslighting. And it's kind of like this right here. You know, this isn't how I wrote it, for example. This is supposed to say reverse. Emotional will tell you, like, well, you shouldn't feel upset about that. Like, get over it. Or, why are you making such a big deal out of that? Like, you're just so sensitive, you know? And mentally, they'll be like, I think you're overthinking about this. Like, you clearly didn't write reserve, even though you can see right there that it's like, you know, accidentally wiped it away, or reverse, not reserved. So psychologically makes you question. You're like, wait, was it reversed? Was it reserved? So you start to question even the reality of what you knew was real, but also the reality of what they're telling you just starts to feel like you say the wrong words or you think the wrong things, because it messes with your head. And so instead of like you thinking logically like, oh, I wrote reversed here, I should just grab the marker and like fix it and just write it again, you really won't feel like taking that action, because, you know, you're gonna be stuck in your head, like thinking, what did I say? What did I do? Was this accurate? Am I overreacting? Like, am I losing my mind? Like, why do I feel so upset about this situation? I shouldn't give this so much importance. And so you'll start to gaslight yourself. And that's the most frustrating part about all of this, is whatever it is, whether it's intentional, unintentional, conscious, subconscious, unconscious, subtle, over, whatever, emotional, psychological, it's abuse. It's abuse, and it makes you eventually abuse yourself. That's the whole goal. And they'll use reverse gaslighting by saying, oh, well, you're gaslighting me. And it'll make you go wild. I mean, it'll go so far as to them making it seem like they know what gaslighting means. And they'll say, that's not what gaslighting means. I know what it means. And then they'll be gaslighting you on the term of what gaslighting means. It's very triggering, and even talking about it can bring up trauma and situations where you just feel like your whole world has been turned upside down. People have destroyed your reputation, defamed your character, they have eroded trust, and they have caused you physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, psychological, energetic, all kinds of different harm to you and your loved ones in your life. And then you're left feeling like you were the one that made it all up. It's like make-believe. It's the land of make-believe, you know? It's just like you won a golden ticket to their freaking insanity factory, and you don't want to be a part of it, but it's like, you're the winner, you get to go on the ride and come with me, and you'll see, you know, this world of pure delusion that they create. And you're supposed to believe them, because they're so delusional, they'll believe themselves. They'll think that what they're saying is true, even though they know they're lying. Like, sometimes they're that delusional that they'll start to believe their own lies. So why and how does this happen? Who does gaslighting? Well, gaslighting usually can happen with people who are unaccountable, narcissistic, delusional, and who have mental issues that don't get help for it. People who are grandiose and arrogant with huge egos that just love running the show. They don't know how to say sorry or feel bad for others. They can be energy vampires. They can have demons attached to them. They can just be overall shitty people, because good people don't do that. People with integrity don't try to invalidate other people's feelings or deflect accountability or not apologize or change their behavior. So their key is deflection, because they don't want to own up to what they did, because it's like, that's work. They're lazy, they're lousy. They don't want to put in the effort. It's easier to just blame somebody else or make somebody question their reality, instead of looking in the mirror at their own darkness, their own shadow, and realizing their shit stinks. So they make it seem like your shit stinks, and it's like, sure, everybody's shit stinks, but they're like, no, only your shit stinks, and you're the one causing all this smell here, even though it's really them. So they don't want to look at their own BS. They're people who want you to be the martyr, you to be the rescuer, while they play the victim. And they're pretty childish and immature. They're emotionally stunted. They probably had trauma they haven't faced. And so they're just pushing all that nonsense onto everybody else instead of getting help. They are great at rewriting history. So they'll make up stories. They'll reconstruct narratives. They'll fill in gaps with things that never happened. They'll change the actual course of events or details. They'll include other people into it and then try to gain other people's perspectives and perceptions and be like, well, do you remember that this happened? And they'll just ask questions in deceptive ways or make it seem like what you're saying happened wasn't the exact truth. Like, you must have forgotten something. You must have been high. You must have been drunk. You must have been sleepy. You must have been emotionally high-strung. And so it makes it where it discredits your viability and your response. That way people don't take you seriously. And so rewriting history is a perfect strategy, because once they do that, once they create a new story, which they're great at doing, they're great at making up things, they're great at just compulsively, pathologically lying, and it's fun for them. They enjoy it. They enjoy seeing you get angry and looking at you get upset and start to get mentally riled up, because for them it's a game. And that's something important to realize, is for narcissistic people and for gaslighters, it's a game. Their goal is to get in the goal of your mind and to make you think what they think or what they're saying. They don't really think that. They just believe that you're gonna think it if they say it enough. So it's like repetition. That rewriting history, they repeat it again and again. They just keep using these forms and strategies of strategic manipulation to get you to side with them against yourself and get other people to side with them against you, and then they are already against you, so they don't really need to side against you because clearly they're their enemy, or they're being your enemy, and the enemy's working through them, but they don't see that because they don't want to see that. They just pretend they're the good ones and you're the bad guy, and then you're left to think that maybe I'm the bad guy because you're empathic or you do self-reflection and they don't. And so they weaponize your own insecurities, your own strengths like empathy, and your own compassion and loving kindness against you, because they see that you're vulnerable. You're like an easy target and prey. You might be gullible and naive because you see the benefit of the doubt, that you look for the best in people, and so they, using their wolf in sheep's clothing techniques, can just attack you with this form of emotional and psychological abuse. Power differentials. They love to feel above people. They love to feel like they're better than you. They're the ones that are able to run the show, the script. They get to be the limelight of the play, and their voice gets to be the star of the opera. It's like they're the Dracula and they're the freaking Phantom of the Opera or whatever, but they really like being the center focus. It's egocentric. It's all about them. It's all about their thoughts, their perception, their perspective, what they saw and didn't see, what they felt and didn't feel, what they think. And it's usually very shallow. It's very desensitized. It's very like, oh yeah, that's too petty for me. Like, or they just act like they don't care because it makes them feel like they're better than you. They're better than that. They're better than others. They're always like too cool for school. You know, they're cooler than you. Like, they have the cool shades, they have the cool vibe, but not in a way of like, oh, they just own their authenticity and they celebrate yours. They're in competition with you. They are in subtle or overt competition with you, and they are actually trying to one-up you by gaining power. In not healthy, powerful ways or empowered ways, they're trying to steal your power. They're trying to get you to give them your power, which you can't really do. You either allow yourself your power or you cut it off. But that power differential, they want to differentiate from you because they want to feel like they're different, they're cool, they're better, and now they have status, they have popularity, they have influence, and they get to call the shots. So they have the control in the dynamic, whether it's the victim control dynamic, where they play the victim, or the withholding control dynamic, where they withhold love from you and tell you that, you know, you hurt them and now they're going to need distance, or they give you the silent treatment, or any of the other dysfunctional dynamics of manipulation that people use to pretty much punish other people. It's not healthy, and this isn't how healthy people work. They don't need to get control of the situation and try to domineer you. They don't need a false sense of power. They don't need to deflect. So it's narcissism, it's ego, it's unaccountable nature of people. It all comes full circle. It's just their character. So gaslighting reveals people's character, and you come to find that they have been this kind of person the entire time. It's not subtle. Usually it's pretty right in your face, but it can be very hard to decrypt and decipher because it can be very here and there, and it can be where they help you and they do good things for you, and then they turn around and they harm you. Or they love you and they treat you well, and all of a sudden they turn around and don't. And so that inconsistency creates that intermittent reinforcement where your brain kind of gets addicted to the chemicals and trauma bonds with them. So you become like this just like incessant mouse or rat or whatever in the cage trying to get these pellets from them, or trying to get a dose, like an addict trying to get a dose from them. And they know that they have that power over you because they've done that. They've like primed you and groomed you, or pretty much prepared you for their feast. They've like marinated you in sauce, and the neurochemical sauce like keeps you hooked through the trauma bond to them. And the gaslighting is pretty much the initiator of the sauce. It's the marinating to get you hooked. And because you trust somebody, you would hope that they would consider your best interests. But when do they do this form of abuse? They do it right when you're most vulnerable. It's when you need them the most. It's when they have a shot at your Achilles heel. It's when you would hope that they would capitalize on your best interests and love you and act in compassionate ways. Yet they see it as an opening. They see it as like a portal into your deepest, darkest secrets, or your traumas, or into that self-trust that you've built so much of or might be lacking. And they'll target either already vulnerable individuals or individuals who've really worked on themselves, because once again, they want to one-up people. They want to gain access, power, control, and they usually hit you right at your weakest point. They kick you when you're down. Or if you're not down, they'll make sure that you start to get down. They'll chip away at you slowly but surely. So, you know, if you realize it, you might realize it really late and look back and realize over time they were able to pretty much get you out of your own peace and health and alignment by progressively doing it. So it didn't happen all at once. It wasn't like one day you woke up and it was just over right in your face. Hey, I don't believe what you believe. I don't think you are valid in your feelings, or you're crazy. They'll do it like step by step by step. They'll like slowly erode at your mental health. They'll just regulate your nervous system. They'll make you question like if you're really clear about what you want, even though you might be, or if you're not, they'll like amplify those insecurities. They'll like do what they can to magnify your weaknesses, demean your strengths, and make it feel like they're ultimately on a pedestal and you're just like a peasant or a pauper. Now, they might do it in public, or they might do it behind closed doors. And if they do it in front of people, people might catch on to it and help you realize But if they get other people involved in it, then it's a total nightmare. If your friends, your family, your social group starts to side with them and question their reality with you, or if groups come at you and gaslight you and make you feel like you're crazy, it's a lot harder to get out of them. But the craziest thing is a lot of gaslighting happens behind closed doors, and it happens in these subtle ways where it's not always easily noticeable by people, because the people who are gaslighting are very charismatic. They're very narcissistic, so they're able to go and act like they're this great person and they're super cute and hot and rich and famous and successful, and people love it. Like, people in positions of power, they're like, yeah, they're awesome, they're protesting, they're working for us for our rights. Or, ooh, there's this cool like magazine editor or this actor, they're like really like, you know, powerful and wealthy or whatever. Or they could be a doctor or lawyer. There's intellectual narcissism, and so they'll be in this grandiose narcissism and this pathological type of behavior. Or it'll not even be pathological, it can just be, you know, they're just being themselves, and themselves is a shitty person because of their character, but people can't see past it because they have this charismatic, like nice looking appearance, but their character beneath it's flawed. Their personality sucks, but their persona is sparkly. It's like a Pokemon card that's really shiny, but it's actually fake. It's not a real authentic one. If you send it into grade, you'll find it just peels apart. It's not a real, old school card. Not all that glitters is gold, right? So some people, they shine in this illusion, but when you get down to it, there's no substance beneath it. It's not actually fine gold. It's just gold plated, and it's just gold flakes. And beneath it's just tin or copper or whatever, cheap iron metal or whatever. It's not silver, it's not gold, and it's not even copper. It's just a cop out, and it's a facade. So once you catch on to it, you'll see that they are putting on a great mask. It's a great play, it's a great show, it's an ensemble, and they want you to play in their show. And so the best thing you can do is realize when it's happening, or realize that it's happened, and start to step out of that show. It's to get out of their game. It's to stop playing the game. Gaslighting is meant to make you get reactive, because when you get reactive, it feeds the fuel of the fire for them to gaslight you more and to use your reaction against you, to be like, look, see, you are crazy, you are yelling, why are you so angry, why are you so upset, see, I was right, she is insane, he is an idiot, look, you guys, look, they're just going off again, I told you so, I knew it. You know, it's confirmation bias. They use that filter and that lens to put it over other people's eyes and to now make you see what they want to see. And they'll even put this mirror up to you that's reflecting an image that they put on it that's not actually the reflection. But you might start to believe it because, well, I'm looking at a mirror. But it's like, but they use chalk to draw this thing of you on there. That's not you. And this confirmation bias, they'll use that and weaponize that to continue to get you to more anger and frustration and upset, to the point where they can just continue to gaslight you more and more, because now there's all this ammunition they've built using you as the supply for their own narcissism, using you as the weapon to destroy yourself, because they only had to start it and then you just kind of spiraled. So reactivity is really destructive in this situation because it just feeds their flame. To stop their flame, you have to cut off the oxygen supply, and you have to stop giving them fuel for the fire. So what do? Take your own oxygen back. Breathe. Pause. Regulate your body, regulate your nervous system. Like most situations, pausing and breathing is going to help you, but like, feel how you feel. Think how you think. What do you really feel and think about this person or situation? Is it congruent with what they're saying? Is what they're saying accurate? Talk to a therapist, talk to AI, talk to a medical or mental health professional, talk to a friend, talk to a family member, talk to a neutral third party. Ask people what they think about a situation without mentioning yourself in it or that person. And just think about it from a place of like, if you weren't the person in it, what would you be thinking and feeling? If you saw someone else in this situation, what would you think about it? How would you think that they're being treated by their partner or their friend or whoever's in it? What would you perceive it as if you had nothing to do with it? So give yourself the grace of being able to like step out of the situation, to work on it instead of being stuck in it. When you're in gaslighting, when you're being gaslit and being told like these lights weren't turned on, you're just seeing it, it's not real, you're in it. So you can't really work on it because you're so stuck trying to battle the contents and the circumstances and the conditions of the experience and the person, that you're not able to actually see it from a third person perspective of what's really going on. Or if you do, you're too caught up in it to try to convince them of something that's already going on that they know that they're lying about, instead of stepping out of it, realizing what they're doing, showing others clearly what's happening when you're calm and we're separated, or just exiting altogether and letting them deal with the crazy game that they've created and no longer playing their game. So you have to remove yourself from the situation, from the equation. When gaslighters see that you do that, they might try to gaslight you and say, look, you're just running away. You're a coward. Exactly. Fight or flight. You're just doing what you always do. You know, I knew it. They'll make you feel like you're crazy again for trying to leave. They'll make you seem like you aren't trying to be accountable or do the work. They'll flip the script. They'll constantly change the narrative. They'll make whatever you do or don't do be the problem. And they'll figure out a way to get inside your head. So you have to keep them out of your head. They'll figure out a way to get into other people's head. They'll figure out a way to make you this bad guy and guilt trip, shame you, and manipulate you into thinking that what's wrong with me. And it's exactly what they want to do, because when you say what's wrong with me, they'll be like, well, this, that, this is what's wrong with you, this is what you did this to me, and it just justifies their whole complex, which makes them feel better than you, which gives them power, illusory control, and this grandiose, delusional identity of who they think they are. And it just helps feed that whole self-concept that's not even true or real, because it's demonic, it's dark, it's evil, and they are enabling themselves to do that, and other people are too. So obviously they don't want to go toward the light. Vampires hate the light. They don't want to look in the mirror because they'll see that there's nothing really there and there's no substance, and they don't want to face you because you're slaying their illusion with truth. They don't want the truth. They want a convenient lie. That's what they signed up for. They want you to sign up with them, and they want other people to sign up in this merry-go-round of hell. That's what gaslighting really is. It's a merry-go-round of hell. They want you to stay stuck on that ride, and the only thing you can do is get off that ride. But you can't get off that ride if you keep trying to convince them that the ride is happening when they're telling you, oh, the merry-go-round's not going round. You must have a concussion. You must be confused. You must be dizzy. Oh, you're not sitting on a horse on the merry-go-round. That's not a chair. That's not a horse. There's no music playing. I'm not the one running this. What are you talking about? We're actually in a cafe. And you're like, what? And so you're not going to sit there and tell them, hey, this isn't a cafe. This is a merry-go-round. They're going to be like, no, this is a cafe. I'm a coffee maker. We're on a coffee date. Like, obviously they know it's a merry-go-round, right? But they're going to be telling you that it's like a cafe or a cafe in Paris. No, we're not. Like, we're not on a romantic date in Paris. This doesn't feel good to me. Like, this is gross. We're on a crazy merry-go-round that you created. We're in, San Antonio, and this doesn't add up. Like, this is a mess. You're not even dressed well. You don't have anything to pay for. Like, I'm the one paying. No, and they're gonna be like, why are you so upset? Why do you make everything about you? And they'll do that. Like, they'll call you a controlling and manipulative person. And right when you're about to leave, they'll try to hook you back in and be like, I'm sorry. And they'll use apologies to gaslight you into believing that they're actually sorry. They'll do things that don't only make you question your reality, but they'll create entire facades. And realities where they future fake. They promise you, I'm going to change, I'm going to do better, I promise you, I'm so sorry this time, I really mean it. And they'll use your own sense of love and care toward them and compassion and grace to give them more chances. They'll pretend they change. They'll pretend they're going to change right before you leave or as you're leaving. They'll pretend, you know what, you were right. I was gaslighting you even, that was a merry-go-round. That wasn't a cafe, I'm so sorry. And then they'll go and gaslight you again. They could even be that narcissistic and that messed up that they know what they're doing. They'll say sorry for what they're doing. And they know it's abuse. And those are the most toxic types of situations in people, is like, they actually know exactly what they're doing, but they're a step above. They're like super narcissists, super sociopaths, where their gaslighting goes above and beyond. And I'm not talking about the music group, I'm just, their show is nothing entertaining. There's no fun. You're just at this concert where they're just like screaming and yelling and playing the guitar super loud and smashing stuff, and the amp is going all noisy, and they just expect you to listen to it and sit through it and be like headbanging or just like rocking out and enjoying it with them. And you're like, this is just noise that's not even enjoyable. Like, the tickets are expensive. It's kind of a scam. The scalpers are just overcharging it. All the people at the concert kind of suck. It's not even my genre. I don't even want to meet the artist. I don't really care to get their autograph or meet them. And it's just not my vibe. But they're like, but it is your vibe. And you should want this. And how dare you not? So it's like this really petty, like gross, like almost like just catty and like almost like this Valley Girl type energy and this immature mean girl type of like high school energy. Like, people are like stuck in high school when they're gaslighting because they're just like choosing to be a lame bitch, and instead of like choosing to be healthy and being an adult and like having tough conversations, it's easier for them to just spin things their way. It's easier to get other people involved so they don't have to do the work and like actually own their shit. And it's easy for them to just do it this way because they've gotten used to it. And it's worked, and it works, and people fall for it, and their parents probably did it, or they taught them to do it, their friends, society, and they find that, well, if it works, if I get the reward and I do it and it turns out, even if I lie or cheat or steal or manipulate or whatever that they do, then why wouldn't I keep doing it, right? Because no one's actually punished them, or no one's actually withdrawn from them, or no one's actually held them accountable and given them consequences, so they think this person's gonna fall for it as well. And that's where they really screw up. Because when you catch a narcissistic person or a gaslighter or a manipulator, they hate it. They'll get really upset with you. They'll start to gaslight you heavier and heavier, or they're gonna stop and pretend it didn't even happen, which is also gaslighting. They'll make it seem like none of it ever occurred. It's all in your head. You're making it up because, no, I'm not gaslighting you. I'm actually really sane. I'm acting healthy all of a sudden. And then you're like, wait, what? How is this person all acting healthy now? Like, they said that, what? So it gets inside your head in so many different ways that they'll play entire shows. They'll create a whole movie. They're like a cinematographer, Bravo, give them a round of applause because they just aced that audition. They're able to execute their performance. Like, they deserve an Oscar and a Grammy. They deserve awards for how good they are at their ability to put on this role. It's like they're Heath Ledger and the Joker. They actually think they're the Joker. Even though it's actually you. You've been playing them all along with pretending that you don't know what's going on, but you're the actual jester and they're the clown. And you see right through it because everybody's got to play the fool sometimes. And they think that you're fooling you, but you're fooling them because you see through it. You're like Batman, and you've come to pretty much slay. And if you don't, then you're enabling all of the rest of Gotham City and the world to get screwed by this crazy. And you have to stop it at a certain point, because they are destructive, they are damaging, and they're probably going to cause other people harm. And this is not about saving other people. You have to keep yourself safe, because if you start to call out a gaslighter and an abuser, they're going to probably start to target you, and you can start to feel unsafe. You can start to feel like they're actually coming after you for your health, your happiness, your finances, your career, your relationships. They'll start to sabotage you more, and then they'll make it up to seem like it's all in your head, none of it ever happened, and they'll rewrite narratives for people, and they can actually create entire stories to try to defame your character and destroy your life. And they can try to steal your partner and your spouse, they can take your kids from you, they can make you seem like a horrible parent in custody battles, and they can fabricate evidence, they can lie under oath, they can deceive authority figures and make false claims and accusations, they can commit perjury. People can do all kinds of evil, crazy stuff to get away with what they're getting away with. And they think they're going to get away with it, but you pretty much have to hold them accountable and be like, you can't do that. But they'll pretend that they didn't do it, so you have to pretty much show them that they did it. But don't try to prove to them they did it. They know they did it. Just go a different route and let the karma take care of them. Because people who are that sociopathic, they'll go to great lengths and extents, they're psychopathic, to destroy other people's lives just so they don't have to own up to the truth. Just so they can have an easier time, which ultimately is not easier for them or anybody, because it's a zero-sum game where everybody loses, and then they end up getting karma and getting screwed in the end. But they believe if they just keep doing that, it's just going to keep working for them, because it has, so it's easier, even though it's actually harder for everyone. And it ends up really hard for them when it bites them in the end. But that's a whole other story for another time, because you're not going to sit there with their merry-go-round of hell or their circus for monkeys. You're going to get out. You get to a point where you realize no amount of trying to rationalize it or reconcile with them or find common ground is meant to work, because they're not looking for common ground. They want you stuck in limbo. They want you stuck in questioning yourself. They want you to feel like your reality is not real. They want you to feel like all of a sudden they're a great person and it was all in your head the whole time. And they'll switch, they'll maneuver, they'll put on different masks and facades, they'll play different hats and roles. It's like a mastermind manipulator and puppeteer. But all the while, they're the innocent one. They don't know what you're talking about. What are you talking about? I did not do that. There's no way. They'll just play dumb. They're really good at playing dumb and acting like they're just the saint, and you're the one that's always causing drama. You're the one always making this situation a problem. You're the one who's hypercritical and can't just let it go. You should just let that go. And that's one of the biggest gaslights ever. Just let it go. You spent years abusing you, just let it go. And one of the most gaslighting things in spirituality is when they say oh, in Buddhism, you chose your life path, you chose your parents. Oh, you chose this, it's what's matching you vibrationally to this person and experience. And so spiritual gaslighting is another thing, where people use spirituality and religion to be you should just forgive them, just love and light, just let it go. Even though that person's a psycho who could kill people or hurt people, they'll just be you should just practice compassion. What you see in others, you see in yourself. And so people use deflection as a really good gaslighting thing as well, where they'll be oh yeah, that doesn't exist to me, you're projecting, how you see me is a reflection of you. My response to you is my karma. It's no bitch, you are actually disgusting in how you act, and that's a fact. It's an opinion, but it's also a fact that your behavior is gross. And they'll be no, that's your perspective of me, your projection of me. And they'll pretty much make it seem your perspective is what's negative, even though their behavior and communication is actually toxic and negative. So you can't, in spiritual New Age circles, even look at people's shadow or be you have a shadow, because they'll be you're projecting that onto me. I'm just reflecting back to you your own shadow. So it's infuriating. Of course you're going to feel upset and annoyed when you're trying to tell people feedback and be hey, you're being annoying, and they're That's just you thinking that. It's just you believing that way. You're just operating on those lower vibrational frequencies. Like, that's why, because it's you're attracting that. Why are you manifesting that? Because law of attraction. So your vibrational matched that, and you're seeing that in me. Just practice loving kindness. Just breathe. Just let it go. This yogic, spiritual, love light bullshit, it gets old. And people in circles like that will weaponize that and be predators and be weirdos and creeps, and other people will enable it because they'll be like, let's just love and accept, when that person's violating consent, verbal consent, and healthy boundaries that people have, and practicing unhealthy boundaries and pretty much crossing people's lines of no return. And oftentimes people like men would do that to women and get other people, like other men, to enable it, but it's not always men. There's women that do this too. But it's a weird predatorial thing that happens in these communities because it's hard for people to speak up, because they go into fight or flight, they go into fawning, they stop being able to express themselves because of trauma. They get abused, they have a hard time saying anything. And when they do say something, the oppressor, the perpetrator, gaslights them and tells everybody else that it didn't happen, they're just making it up. And then they'll even try to say they're going to sue for defamation of character, or that, how dare they, and they'll make up stories and lies to make the victim look horrible. And this is what people do when children are treated incorrectly growing up. The child tries to come to their parent and say that a family member is abusing them, and the parent doesn't believe the child, or people don't believe women that come forward. And another thing that's really screwed up is that people will make up false accusations. Like, women will sometimes abuse the system and pretend that they were abused or assaulted. And those scummy people who make up lies and aren't actually a victim, they ruin it for all the actual victims, because then the system questions who's actually being honest rather than just trusting victims. So it's hard. And it makes sense why people would be suspicious or doubtful, because people have abused both sides of power. But usually people don't just make up false accusations. Usually victims actually are victims, and they're not believed because they're gaslit by the perpetrator, they're gaslit by others, even their own family and parents, and that abuser is enabled by these groups of gaslighting. And society is a whole gaslight about this, because people just act like, well, sexual abuse trauma doesn't happen, when it really does, and a lot of people have experienced it. They act like men don't get abused, only women do. Well, they do. Both genders get abused. Or they act like everything's just fine, everything's under control, and it's like, it's absolutely not fine, it's not under control. And so the whole narrative of trying to undermine the actuality, trying to justify what's been done, trying to pretend nothing ever happened, like the indigenous cultures weren't violated, or their land wasn't stolen, or history is a certain way that certain groups of people have written. That's not the actuality. That's just a reality. Reality is perception. Perception is just one perspective, and perspective isn't always the actuality of the truth. It's a truth. And so because we have our own perspectives, people use gaslighting to invalidate our truth, to try to make their truth the truth, when it's not the truth. And that's the biggest gaslight of all. The truth is a truth no matter how many times it is denied. A lie is a lie no matter how many times it's accepted. So gaslighting is based on lies. It's a house of cards, it's a facade, and when one little piece goes, the whole thing crumbles. You pull one string and the whole thing gets untied. And it's because it's a trauma bond, and it's not a healthy bond. It's not strong, it doesn't have integrity, it doesn't have strong foundations. It's not built on something sustainable or tangible. And eventually it implodes, it collapses on itself if you let it. If you keep trying to fight it, what you resist persists. It's kind of like the devil's snare in Harry Potter, where you have to allow yourself to kind of flow through it. You have to kind of surrender to the gaslighting and accept, and it's hard. But you have to accept that you can't accept. You don't bulldoze and force yourself into acceptance or just letting it go. you feel it, you heal it, you get through it, you realize you get resources, you get help, you slowly but surely get out of it. And eventually when you get out, you stop trying to prove to anybody or anything what it is. You let the truth speak for itself, and you let your actions and moving on ultimately be the example that speaks volumes louder than sitting there trying to effectively communicate that your reality is actually valid, that you're true. And by that point, you can become fragmented, have multiple personalities, become actually delusional and schizophrenic and lose your mind, become depressed, anxious, and post-traumatized, and ultimately traumatized. Like, it's just a losing battle. So you have to pick your battles wisely with gaslighting. Realize abuse is abuse, regardless if it's intentional or not, whether it's psychological or emotional, whether it's something that they're doing overtly or covertly behind closed doors or out in public, or if they're getting groups involved, or if they're doing it reverse back onto you and acting like you're gaslighting them and playing victim control dynamics. It's all the same shit, different toilet. It's all the same exact thing in a different mask. It's all the same demon that's just in a different archetype. It deserves slaying. And the only thing that can slay it is the truth, it's self-love, it's healthy boundaries, and it's discernment. It's being able to spot it, it's being able to get out of it, and it's being able to pretty much speak it for what it is. Stay objective, stay focused on facts, not emotions. Stay focused on things they can't question, they can't infuriate you with, they can't try to nullify, and that they can't deny, because it's fact, it's written, you have evidence, you have proof, you have standards, you have boundaries, this is how you're going to do, these are the consequences. They hate that. People hate when you actually stick to your word and you stand on your business and you get through it and you move forward and you stick to details, you stick to processes, you stick to procedure, you stick to professionalism, you stick to guidance, support, counsel, and professional resources, and people that actually love and care about you, because they hate you. They hate themselves, they hate everybody. They're not happy people. Happy people don't sit there and try to destroy other people. Only people who are miserable do. Misery loves company. So actually happy, healthy people try to lift other people up. They support others. They validate people's reality. They love, they care, they understand, they ask questions. And they listen to get intimacy, like intimacy, like Teal Swan says, like you see into people, because they actually want to take the time to understand you. They actually care to put the time and energy and money and love and resources in life into getting to know what your best interests are, to meet your best interests, and to actually align with those things, with their thoughts, their words, and their actions. People who don't do that, they do the reverse. They gaslight you, and they try to pretend that everything's in your head and you're making it all up, and that your needs are too much, your desires are too impossible. None of that's real. You're just hyped up and daydreaming and hoping for a reality that's never going to come. Your dreams are too big. Whatever it is, and that your orientation's wrong, your sexuality's wrong, what you want in relationships is wrong, you're too much, you're too feely, you're too emotional, you're too sensitive, you're too in your head, you're overthinking, that's too expensive, that's too much, you're too much, this is too much, everything's too much, it's all a problem, you're the cause of it, everything is your fault, you did this to them, they're the victim. All of a sudden now they've changed. It's all in your head that they ever did anything. What are you blaming me for? It's your fault. You did this. You're making it up. The whole shebang. They'll go to great extents to create so many layers to this cake that you don't even want a slice of, because there's so much that they put into making it, but they won't put the effort into baking a healthy cake of love with you. It's so draining and toxic and abusive, and they're so good at pretending that they're not gossiping about you, that it's everybody else, or that they are a good guy, and that don't doubt them or don't question them, and they'll play a really good show and role where you might actually be deceived for a very long time. But eventually the mask slips. It always does. What you resist persists, like Carl Jung said. And inevitably their facade shatters and their lie falls apart and the truth shines, and can't really hide forever. Eventually everybody has to face karma, death, life, the reality, the actuality, and their truth may be their truth, but it's not the truth. Like, your truth is still valid, so own your truth. Don't let people gaslight you. Speak your truth, communicate your truth, but be careful. Make sure you do safety first, because it's dangerous with certain people. When you start to voice your truth and put yourself out there and get support and help, like, there's even people who will pretend to support you but are actually gaslighting you or siding with the abuser, or they'll pretend to be your friend or support you, but actually they're just trying to manipulate you and screw you over. And a lot of people will act like they're there for you, but really they're just in it for themselves. And the hardest part is when they're helping you while they're also screwing you over. So just be very wise, careful who you trust no one except for yourself to start, and then be very careful and make sure people earn trust. Don't just be naive and foolish and feel like, oh, they're trusting because, they're nice to me. Nice doesn't always equal kind or loving. It can be a total play, and you can easily fall for it. And it's a form of gaslighting. So stop gaslighting yourself. Accept how you feel and think about things. Put yourself in another person's shoes in a similar situation, or step out of your situation. Think about it from a third person perspective and be like, how would I actually think and feel about this? Is this really okay? And if it's not okay, stop pretending it's okay. Stop trying to make yourself feel okay about it. You're not okay with it, you're not okay with it. Change. Write down steps. Write down goals to take. Make plans. Talk to AI. Talk to a therapist. Talk to a trusted professional or friend or loved one. Make an exit plan. Make a exit stage left, step-by-step process to get out. Because unless you write it down, unless you have a clear plan, unless you actually write down objective facts and diaries and keep yourself on board, they can sway you. They can make you feel like you lost your mind, like you're crazy. But when it's on paper, it's easier to see. When you have steps and you take them, it's better because you can actually do something about it. And when you measure your progress, it gives you dopamine, it gives you reward, it gives you peace, it gives you feeling like, okay, I am actually healthy, I am actually happy, I actually am sane. I wasn't crazy. And when you start to interact and put yourself out there with healthier people and situations and relationships, you come to find, wait, I wasn't crazy. Getting loved by other people is actually healthy, and like, people can meet my needs. There are compatible people for me. There are aligned people. There are people who aren't lying about their identity or sexuality or their feelings. There are people who are honest and transparent in business. There are people who I can have functional dynamics with and who are transparent. There are people who will accept how I feel and what I think and find ways to coexist with me. There are people who we can find common grounds even when conflict occurs. There are people who will be accountable. There are people who will apologize. There are people who will do the work to consider your best interests and to act upon it because they love you. And they don't just say they love you, which can be a huge gaslight when people say I love you and they do things that are not loving, but they actually love you because they do things that are loving while loving you and actually saying that they love you, all in one big spiral that connects, and you get to be the center of that focal point and attention from them, not them being the center of the universe for themselves, you and everybody else, and then you having to be this person that's worshiping them like a god. It's like they actually give you their time and energy and focus because they want to. If they wanted to, they would. Well, they do, and they do. Healthy people do. Gaslighters don't, because they don't want to, and they don't give you that love and attention and care because it doesn't serve their ego. Why would they do that to you? Why would they give you something that's going to make you feel better and happier and healthy and have a good self-concept and nourish you and lift up your dreams? They're in competition with you. Of course they're going to sabotage you and manipulate you and keep you stuck and hold you back because they never planned on actually helping lift you up in the first place, even if they acted like it, even if one part of them does, even if they did help you in other ways. If they ultimately are an enemy, they're ultimately a fake friend, they ultimately don't care about you, or they're ultimately a narcissist, sociopath, psychopath, manipulator, and have demons, they're not going to help you. So trust people's words, but also trust their action more. And only trust the words when the action backs it up. Otherwise, don't trust people's words at all. And trust people's action above everything over time, not just once or twice. Make sure it's consistent. Make sure you measure and make sure you hold them accountable. And the best way to hold people accountable and get them to stop gaslighting you is not with your words. It's not to tell them how to treat you. It's not to try to get them to respect your boundaries. It's to show them that if they don't respect your boundaries, they don't have access to you. If they want to stay in your life, they have to treat you with love and respect, and they have to validate your reality. Otherwise, you're out, and that's the consequence. Self-love and healthy boundaries are not just about trying to get people to not gaslight you. It's about stopping the gaslighting on yourself. It's about no longer enabling their gaslighting, And it's about raising those standards. So to meet your reality, people have to not be gaslighters. They have to be healthy people. So I hope that this somehow brings more clarity. I would love to hear about how gaslighting has impacted you, and feel free to check out some of my playlists on psychology and healing and narcissistic abuse and things like that, because there's a lot of videos on there about gaslighting. But I would love to hear your experiences, what's been the most gaslighting thing for you, what you've done to help yourself and others, and what your survival has been like, and what you've heard, or some horror stories, because gaslighting happens all day, every day on the earth. People are really good at playing this show, and a lot of people are naive, gullible, and unaware, and that's who gets preyed on the most, especially in the spiritual communities. So thank you for your time, and I wish you blessings. May this world be full of more peace, less gaslighting, and a lot healthier relationships of self-love.